Hi, I'm Dale Powell, and welcome to that Spirit of Storytime. I want to get right into the story today. It's called The Storyteller, and it's by Saki. But first, could I ask you to please click the like button and push that, and also subscribe. If you would subscribe, it's totally free, but it helps me quite a bit, so I would really appreciate it if you could do that. Okay, here is Saki's The Storyteller. Picture this, a scorching hot afternoon in the 1900s, early 1900s, 1903 to be exact. No AC, no breeze, just a packed train car slowly rattling toward Templecombe. Still, that's almost an hour away. In this oven of a compartment sit two little girls, a small boy, their exhausted aunt, and across from them, a bachelor, trying to mind his own business, traveling alone. A stranger, a man who clearly thought he'd be on for a quiet ride across the countryside. But he was wrong. The kids dominate the space, with the aunt doing her best to try to speed things up and help them a little bit and take their unstoppable energy and make it less than 3 caffeinated squirrels, which is what they seem like. The aunt keeps firing off warnings that always start with, "Don't," while the kids counter with endless, "Why?" The bachelor says nothing, but his face says everything. He doesn't say anything out loud. The aunt tries to keep order. Cyril, the little boy, starts smacking the seat cushions, sending up clouds of dust. "Cyril, don't! She tries redirecting his attention. "Cyril, come over here and look out the window." He obeys, reluctantly. "Why are those sheep being driven out of that pasture and into that field?" asks Cyril. The aunt tries to answer, but Cyril keeps drilling her, wanting a specific answer. The bachelor's frown deepens into a full scowl. Meanwhile, the smaller girl starts reciting the only line she knows from the popular song, "On the road to Mandalay, on the road to Mandalay," and she sings it over and over again, like she's trying to break a world record. The bachelor glances at the emergency cord. Twice. The aunt attempts a story, trying to calm the kids down. "Come over here, children, and listen to a story." The kids shuffle over, already unimpressed because they've heard the aunt's stories before. She launches into a painfully dull tale about a good little girl who makes friends because she's so very, 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 very good, and gets saved from a mad bull because everyone admires her goodness. And when the bull tries to attack her, they all come to her rescue immediately. The bigger girl says, "That's the stupidest story I've ever heard." Cyril says, "I didn't listen after the first little bit. It was so stupid." The smaller girl doesn't comment. She just goes back to her single line from the poem loop. "On the road to Mandalay, on the road to Mandalay." The bachelor, who's been quite quiet up to this time, hasn't said anything, but now he looks over and talks to the aunt. "You don't seem to have a lot of success as a storyteller," the man offered. The aunt was offended by his rudeness and says, "It's very difficult to teach children stories that they can both appreciate and understand." The bachelor says, "Oh, I don't agree with you." "Well, will you tell us a story?" asked the bigger girl. The bachelor's story begins, and he says, "I'd be happy to tell you one." Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Bertha, who was extraordinarily good. The kid's interest has already started to wane just a little bit, until he adds, oh, she was so good, she was horribly good. Now the narrator has them. He describes Bertha's medals. She has one for obedience, one for punctuality, one for good behavior, and they think they clink together as she walks. He tells them the prince lets her walk in his private park once a week because she's so very, 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 very good. The kids interrupt and ask the question, is she pretty? Oh, not as pretty as any of you. And then Cyril asks the question that every little boy wants to know. Were there any sheep in the park? No, the bachelor says. Well, why weren't there any sheep? The aunt smirks, thinking, aha, now you see what it's like trying to tell these kids stories. But he doesn't struggle at all. There were no sheep in the park, says the bachelor, because the prince's mother had once had a dream that her son would either be killed by a sheep or else by a clock falling on him. So therefore, there were never any sheep or any clocks allowed around him. The aunt nearly gasps in admiration. He describes the pigs of every color, fish in bright ponds, parrots that talk on cue, hummingbirds that hum pop tunes of the day. Bertha walks proudly thinking, oh, if I were not so very, 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 very good, I should not have been allowed to come into this beautiful, beautiful park. Bertha was incredibly proud of herself. She was horribly good, after all, so much so that the medals sometimes clinked together when she walked. Then all of a sudden, her happiness faded when a wolf came into the park. He was mud-colored all over, with a black tongue and pale gray eyes that gleamed with unspeakable ferocity. It spotted Bertha instantly. Her spotless white pinafore gives her away. She runs. The wolf chases. She hides in thick myrtle bushes. The wolf sniffs, but he can't find her. The smell of the myrtle is too strong. He's about to give up when her medals clink together. He dashed into the bush and dragged Bertha out and devoured her to the last morsel. Only her shoes, her clothes, and her 3 medals for goodness remained. The little girl smiled. Cyril had a smile. The aunt was horrified. The first little girl said, the story started out badly, but it had a beautiful ending. The bigger girl said, why, that's the most beautiful story that I've ever heard. Cyril said, it's the only beautiful story I've ever heard. The aunt's horror was unreal. That is a most improper story to tell young children. You have undermined the effect of years of careful teaching. The bachelor packed up his things and prepared to get off the train. Well, at any rate, I kept them quiet for 10 minutes or so, which was more than you were able to do. As he steps off the train, he mutters, poor, unhappy woman. For the next 6 months or so, those children will assail her in public with demands for another improper story. And that's the end of the storyteller's tale. In case you haven't noticed, I really love stories. I really do. I mean, when I started this, I started it as the spirit of Christmas, but mostly I told you Christmas stories. Then we got into the spirit of quiet days, and I got to telling you stories then. After that, I went into the spirit of Poe, and I told you some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. Since that time, I've been on that spirit of story time, where I'm going to stay for a little while, but I'll venture into some other areas as well. See, that's the thing. Story is great. It's universal. It's what binds us together. All the great teachers of the world, no matter what faith, no matter what they were trying to teach, always taught by illustrating story. And I don't think there is a better thing to do. That's what I tried to do here at the Spirit of Storytime. So please, would you hit like and subscribe to my channel? Hey, I know we're not perfect. I know I have a lot of things left to learn, but we're getting there and we are growing. I see that my subscription list is up, my views are getting up, and I really appreciate that. We got a lot that's going to happen.